Hello, I'm Martine Croxall. This is the Iran War Today, bringing you up to date with all you need to know on the US-Israel war with Iran. Let's start with some of today's key developments. The Memorandum of Understanding expired overnight with no sign that either side is keen to extend it. Instead, both Iran and the US have threatened to return to fighting. Donald Trump called on Iran to surrender and raise the white flag. Speaking in an interview with Fox News, the president also threatened to bomb Oman if the Gulf country gets in the way of Washington's efforts to strike a peace deal. Tehran warned that it will shift from a defensive strategy to an offensive one now that the Memorandum of Understanding has expired. Meanwhile, Donald Trump says he's scaling back joint military drills with South Korea. The president cited South Korea's recent refusal to join the US war on Iran as a key reason behind the decision. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi movements have claimed a strike on a Saudi military ship and 4 accompanying boats. The Houthis have been ramping up strikes on vessels in the Red Sea in recent weeks. Not a single ship transited out of the Strait of Hormuz on Sunday as a US blockade tightens around the key shipping route. Only 5 ships transited the strait on Saturday, an 80% drop on the weekend before. So, after 80 days, the Memorandum of Understanding has now expired, and already both Tehran and Washington have threatened a return to all-out war. So, what now? Let's start with the latest from Washington and speak to our State Department correspondent, Tom Bateman. Tom, the president's been speaking to Fox News about the war. Tell us what he said.
Well, he's repeated something that he called for multiple times during the war itself and said that Iran should put up the white flag and surrender. I think where we are now is, and you mentioned the fact that that 60-day period is now ended when it came to what the Americans had hoped would be the moment they would clinch an overall nuclear deal with the Iranians. Of course, absolutely nowhere near that. They've gone backwards. The Strait of Hormuz is still a critical problem for the president. His hope here is that this sort of economic attrition, the blockade around Iranian ports, will eventually force them to, in his words, surrender. The Iranians obviously hoping the Americans will move closer to their position, given the impact that the Strait of Hormuz crisis is still having on global oil supplies. So we remain at something of a deadlock and a stalemate, with absolutely no sign of any progress in negotiations, at least directly between the Iranians and the Americans. The Iranians having said today that there has simply been no discussion whatsoever on the wider nuclear issue since the Memorandum of Understanding was signed.
He's also warned Oman, which is, of course, a US ally, that they should stay out of the way. What's this all about?
Yeah, a pretty extraordinary moment once again, where Mr. Trump has threatened to, in his words, bomb and then he used an expletive, out of Oman if they get in the way. Now, what's going on there is Oman has been involved in these talks with the Iranians as the two sides share the Strait of Hormuz between them. Although the Americans have, to some extent, given their backing to that process, I think Mr. Trump's concern is that if Oman agrees to something which involves the Iranians charging a lot of money in the form of a toll for ships to cross the Strait of Hormuz, that is going to be very humiliating for Mr. Trump, because it shows that not only has he failed to get anywhere on the nuclear issue after launching his and the Israeli attack on Iran, but he's also in a worse position when it comes to transit of the Strait of Hormuz than he was before the war begun. And so he's made this threat. He actually did this before once. Back in May, he threatened to attack Oman, America's allies. Notable, Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, in the last hour or so, has derided Mr. Trump for this, saying that you have, on the one hand, Mr. Trump appearing to want to make friends with North Korea and other adversaries of the Americans, while at the same time castigating allies like Oman and Canada.
Tom, stay with us for a second, if you would, because whilst there are no signs of a return to talks between the US and Iran, there is a US representative in the region today to try to finalise a peace deal with Gaza between Hamas and Israel. President Trump's Middle East envoy, his son-in-law Jared Kushner, met the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for 4 hours today to try to convince him to agree to the terms of the peace deal. Israeli officials say Mr. Kushner urged Benjamin Netanyahu not to create obstacles to the Trump-backed plan. Well, the meeting came after Mr. Kushner sat down with Hamas leaders in Cairo on Sunday for the first time since October. Hamas has already agreed to the terms of the 15-point plan in principle, which would see the Iranian proxy disarm in exchange for a full Israeli military withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. Tom, no sign of any talks then with Iran. Is a peace deal with Gaza now a priority for the administration so that they can make some progress in the Middle East before the midterm elections?
Well, this is certainly a sign, I think, the Americans are trying to inject a bit more momentum into this now with Jared Kushner in the region. You know, let's remember that direct contact between the Americans and Hamas is significant. It's happened once before when Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff were part of the process that clinched the Hamas-Israel ceasefire back in October last year. Here they are, or have been on Sunday, meeting, Mr. Kushner meeting Khalil al-Hayya, the leader of Hamas, in Cairo, along with other members of the Board of Peace, key figures. The former British Prime Minister Tony Blair was in the room there. That's been confirmed to the BBC. Nikolai Mladenov, a key diplomat who's been involved in this, particularly the issue of disarmament. So now Mr. Kushner has gone to the Israelis, basically trying to, I think, persuade Mr. Netanyahu that they're applying pressure on Hamas to get on with the issue of disarmament. In return, they want the Israelis to start to commit to withdrawal, at least from the yellow line in Gaza. But ultimately what Hamas is demanding is a full Israeli withdrawal from the entire Gaza Strip. This is a stalemate now because the Israelis have been digging in, quite literally, saying that there will be no movement in Gaza until there is complete Hamas disarmament. Hamas saying there won't be a disarmament until there is Israeli withdrawal. From the sense I'm getting from the way the talks went, the Israelis are very much trying to build this up, suggesting they've got the Americans to shift closer to their position, that basically there won't be any process like reconstruction until there has been full disarmament of Hamas. We don't have the American statement off the back of those meetings yet, so we wait for that to see just how much progress the White House thinks it's made here.
Tom, for the moment, thank you very much. Tom Bateman. So what about the view from Iran? Well, Tehran has said it has no intention of extending the Memorandum of Understanding with the US. A Foreign Ministry spokesperson described the MOU as entirely moot. And a senior commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard has said the military is now poised to switch to an offensive strategy against the US. Well, with us is Taraneh Fatalian from BBC Persian. So, Taraneh, this Memorandum of Understanding is over. Does that mean that a return to more fighting, an offensive footing from Iran is inevitable?
Well, the situation right now is very fluid and there is no clear indication of what comes next. The IRGC denied any claims by President Trump about any back-channel talks with Iran. It appears that there are no indication of Iran and US having talks, and the IRGC said that if there is any diplomacy, it will be handled by the government and by the foreign ministry. And as you mentioned, one of the IRGC top officials said that Iran will only open the Strait of Hormuz if the US buys and complies with the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, and their tone that they're having seems to be not aggressive, but it seems like they are standing with their position. The commander of one of the commanders of the IRGC said that the situation of the Strait of Hormuz will never go back to the way it was before the war, and they now understand the importance of this tiny strait that they have, and it seems like they're using it as leverage to the best of their ability to control the situation.
Taraneh, thank you very much. Taraneh Fatalian from BBC Persian. Well, Donald Trump has made no secret that his anger at key US allies that declined to join the war with Iran is still very much with us. One of those is South Korea. In a social media post, Mr. Trump announced that he would be reducing the US presence in joint annual military drills with South Korea. President Trump justified that decision, claiming North Korea had been unthreatening and respectful while he'd been in office, and so the large US presence wasn't necessary. He also cited his good relationship with Kim Jong-un and Seoul's decision not to join the US in the denuclearization of Iran. Our Seoul correspondent Jake Kwan has more.
From the post, it almost suggests that he is punishing South Koreans for not joining him in his effort with Iran, and that this is somewhat in response to that. He's also pointing out that South Korea, characterizing it as almost a bad ally who is not doing its fair share of the military burden. So I think this is a bit of a mixed message for South Korea to hear. We just heard from the Blue House, this is the South Korea's presidential office, which has been really pushing President Trump to re-engage North Korea. They saw that he has been busy with Middle East and Ukraine and Venezuela. They have been asking him to play the peacemaker role, engaging North Korean leader in talks. But this is not the way they probably saw it going.
Jake Kwan in South Korea. Well, let's look now at the state of the Strait of Hormuz. Traffic through the strait has dropped back to almost nothing. Fresh maritime data from Kepler shows that shipping slowed over the weekend. Just 5 commodity vessels transited the strait on Saturday and none at all on Sunday. That's a fall of over 80% on the weekend before. It also comes as attacks by Houthi militants in Yemen continue in the Red Sea. The Iranian proxy group said that they attacked Saudi military ships on Monday. The Red Sea is a key alternative route for Saudi Arabia to get oil to the rest of the world, whilst the Strait of Hormuz is closed. But increased Houthi attacks near the Bab el-Mandab Strait means that route isn't entirely safe. Well, let's speak to our North America business correspondent, Michelle Fleury. No ships then transiting the Strait of Hormuz on Sunday. More attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. What impact is this having, Michelle?
Look, I think we're talking about more uncertainty here, and as you know, more costs and potentially higher prices. You referenced Kepler's latest data. I mean, it shows really how constrained shipping has become. Those crossings through the Strait of Hormuz, you know, one of the world's vital waterways when it comes to getting energy out, certainly to Asia and other parts of the world. Down again Sunday, you mentioned, I mean, pretty much nothing going through. Also, there were no crossings through the usual Omani route. And all of this matters. Why? Well, because when ships can't safely move through these key waterways, then companies, they have to sort of go away and think about how to reroute ships, as you pointed out on that map there. And that means often longer journeys, higher fuel, also higher insurance costs. And eventually, here's the problem, some of those costs make their way to consumers. Now, we're already seeing that if you look at the price of oil today, the impact there, Brent is trading around $90 a barrel. Prices are edging higher as the situation remains unresolved around the strait. But what is interesting, what did strike me today, is that the broader stock market actually hasn't had a huge reaction. Stocks are still hovering near record highs. Investors either are hoping that this will eventually get resolved, or they're more focused on optimism around AI. I mean, it's not clear which right now. But I think, you know, the takeaway here is the big question is how long can this go on? Because the longer Hormuz remains disrupted, the bigger the risk to oil prices and, of course, to the broader economy. So you could see, for example, higher energy prices. That might feed into inflation, push up borrowing costs, and ultimately that means hitting consumers around the world like you or I, and also companies.
Michelle, for the moment, thank you. Michelle Fleury in New York. Whether you are joining us on YouTube, TikTok, Sounds, radio or TV, thanks for your time. We'll be back soon with another Iran War Today.